Hello students, welcome to Gyanbihar School of Education, and today we are going to study the topic direct method of language teaching in the subject pedagogy of a school subject English language. So teach the language, not about the language. So we are going to study about the direct method of language teaching, how it is used and what are its purpose. So let's have a look on the learning objectives of today's class. So my learning objective of today's class is just to make you enable students about the understanding of importance of direct method of teaching English language, and also to enable you about to comprehend the basic principles of direct method of teaching English. And as well, you have to understand the advantages and criticism of direct method of teaching English. So let's start it. What is direct method and how it is working for English language teachers and English language learners? So let's understand it in very elaborative manner. Now, outcome will be when you will be understanding the direct method's importance, and you will also comprehend the basic principles of direct method of teaching. As well, you will understand the criticism and understanding of direct method of teaching English. So I suppose when I will teach you, you will understand all these things. So this will help you in understanding the English language more refined way. All right. So let's understand what is direct method. So first of all, there are many more names of it. So let's get familiar with them. So first of all, we know the direct method. It is also known as natural method or anti-grammatical method, and it is also called phonetical method and reform method. So these are the different names given to direct method: natural method, phonetical method, anti-grammatical method, and reform method. So understand students that these are the methods which are actually taken for the purpose of to teach the students in a direct language or target language. So what is the background of direct methods? Let's understand what was the scene behind that. So in the mid and late 19th century, Europe experienced a wave of increasing opportunities of communication, and due to industrialization and international trade and travel, there was a need to have some conversation language which can be used by the people who are having the same interest, such as business and trade and commerce. So when people were actually using this language, they were comfortable earlier in their own languages which were used by them, but they had to make some clear language or just a medium sort of communication which was felt by them. So a need was felt to develop oral proficiency in foreign languages, and this was the actually background. So language teachers had already found grammar translation method. We also call it GTM, grammar translation method, and they found it inadequate and ineffective in developing communicative ability in learners. So students just try to understand that when this was the type of background, when one method was found inadequate and people were feeling the need of to develop such oral proficiency in foreign languages. So English language was felt somehow little comfortable to talk to with each other, especially by the people, those who were in business. They strongly advocate an alternative method in which language was presented in context and the mother tongue was avoided. So its principal advocates were Pendergast and Sauvier, who propose that they call natural method that suggests radical change from grammar translation. So it is this method, students, that later on came to be known as the direct method. So first important thing to remember for you is that these propounders of these this direct method was Pendergast and Sawyer, and the secondly, it was earlier known as natural method. All right, so that is why it is called. Uh, this was a radical change for grammar translation method. So it is this method that later on came to be known as the direct method. So the direct method is named direct because meaning should be connected directly with the target language. So without translation into the native language, concept, target, meaning, language, this is all you have to understand through the diagrammatical concept, that concept or meaning can be understood through direct language only. No other language is taken as a help to make the students understand about the concept. Now, there are some theoretical assumptions behind direct method. So, language can be learned only through demonstration instead of analytical procedures of explaining grammar rules. Students must be encouraged to use language naturally and spontaneously so that they induce grammar. So this was the basic assumption behind direct method, that students are basically more and more interested in using language naturally. Okay. Then secondly, the learning of second language was seen as parallel to the acquisition of child's first language. This method before emphasizes the importance of sound, simple sentences, and direct association of language with object and person of immediate environment, the classroom, the home, the garden, etc. So, this is something, whatever the child is listening, the child is actually adapting that in his learning behavior. So the assumption was that it is child's, whatever is the child's first language, child becomes more familiar with that. So the idea behind using the direct method with the English language, which is as foreign language, that when we mix up two or other languages with English language, then what the objective the teacher has decided to teach the students to be skillful in all the four devices, like listening, speaking, reading, and writing, it actually gets disturbed, and students are not well. Students will not be learning well in that way, which is required. Now, students, let's understand basic principles of direct method. What are the basic principles? So, let's understand that classroom instruction is conducted in exclusively in the target language. So, the teacher should demonstrate. Teacher should demonstrate, not explain or translate. Never translate, you demonstrate. As you all know that students are the best followers of teachers, so the students are always like that. Whatever the teacher tells them, they are following it blindly. Yes, if you are teaching small children, you will see this example with more abundance in your classroom. So this is the basic principle of instruction, that when the teacher is teaching, so it should be in target language only. The teacher should demonstrate that target language fluently, so that students are also getting motivated and interested in learning target language. Target languages are English language. So never translate, demonstrate. This is the basic principle. Now, secondly, we are talking about only everyday vocabulary and sentences are taught in direct method. Basic vocabulary is given first. So it is not like that, students, that we are going to give a very heavy vocabulary to our students, which is not of use, because students are learning well when they find it comfortable, when they find any word to speak comfortably, when the pronunciation is easy for them. So give them basic vocabulary first of all, so that they are actually starting with that, they are using that language in their day-to-day life. So this actually enhances the use of foreign language or target language in a more comfortable manner. So, vocabulary is taught through known words, demonstration, authentic objects, realia, pictures, and miming. You can see there are so many pictures given in my presentation, and these are some basic things like clock is given, dress is given, and comb is given, chair. So, these are some basic words which a student must remember and must recognize. So this is what student we want you to be enabled as a teacher in yourself, that you are going to teach your students basic vocabulary first. All right. So this is all about it. Third principle. Now fourth is about grammar is taught inductively. Yes, inductively, in that manner that when we are introducing the like when we are giving the example first, and when we are not giving the rule first, it is in an inductive manner. When we are going to deductive, then it is the rule first and then example later on. So do not give rules first, make them figure out what is the rule. This is the principle of direct method, that when we give the rules to our students, they simply learn the rule and they forget about practicing what is essential for them. All right. So remember, grammar is taught inductively. There may never be an explicit grammar rule given. So practice is more required. So until unless you give them opportunity to understand the rule, the teacher will explain the concept of grammar or topic in target language only. Then the child gradually understands, okay, this is the logic behind this sentence that is working, or they just get the idea of the particular rule. Then teacher confirms, yes, this is the rule, and they go on with their practice. Basic principle in continuation, we are learning new teaching points are introduced orally. We are of this point of view that as this child is listening more and more the target language, the more and more he is grasping the idea about English language. So it is something that students are learning more if they are listening more in target language. So oral transmission is very, very important for the students. So both speech and listening comprehensions are taught, and students are well versed with target language. So it is very important to understand the importance of speech as well as listening. Now, seventhly, we are discussing about the teacher by asking the student to make a choice, gets him to correct his own error. So it is like learning by self-corrections. So students, it is happily accepted by a teacher if the child is making mistakes in the classroom. No matter if the child has made the mistake. Actually, the child is learning by self-correction. So when you are explaining something by target language only, then even the child is also getting the opportunity to analyze his own answer. So maybe the teacher has given a word meaning through actions or by drawing something on the board, then the child has got the correct idea. Then in that way, the child is listening more, observing more to the teacher's words and actions, and then he or she is correcting that. All right. Then now come to the eighth principle, that is the syllabus is based on situations or topics, not usually on linguistic structures. Contextual topic teaching. So topical teaching, contextual teaching, this is actually not required in direct teaching. So the syllabus is actually set in such a way that more and more situations are given in the classroom of target language. So only then you have understood in situational approach that when we are providing situations to the students, they are becoming more eligible to understand. They are actually making themselves more efficient in that particular target language. Now, basic principles, correct pronunciation is emphasized. So, students should learn to think in the target language as soon as possible. So, here in this method of learning English language, which is called direct method or natural method, the basic thing is that whatever the pronunciation is, teacher is actually exhibiting, so students are learning that only. So it is very much importance that teacher must understand the phonetic system, and teacher should pronounce the words accordingly into the class. So this is very important. So students should learn to think in the target language as soon as possible. Yes, in my previous lectures also, I have told you that it is the tendency of our Indian people that we most of the time think. And when we think, we start thinking in our own language or the mother tongue or the regional language, and we wish to learn the target language, which is English language. So this type of combination from mind and the wishes doesn't go very well along with it. So when you want to learn the English language, it is expected from you to start thinking in English language. So small sentences will help you in that. So only then you will be understanding the English language more efficiently. So they start thinking in the target language as soon as it is possible for you. So a good teacher must always motivate the students to think in English, and that's why extempore debate competitions are organized, so that students' minds are trained into that way that they are speaking English also very fluently. Now, next principle, what we are talking about, the purpose of language learning is communication. Communication is the main purpose of language learning. Whatever we are learning for the sake of doing communication with each other. So when we are not able to communicate with each other, the purpose of language is not fulfilled. So whatever we have learned this is not of use for us. So therefore students need to learn how to ask questions as well as answer them. So communication first preference must be there. So when a teacher organizes, you can see in the presentation, teacher is organizing a round table communication, which is actually happily being done by the students. They are raising hands and teacher is actually instructing happily. So this is something a student must experience very frequently in the classroom. Only then the language can be learned in a thought process, that is a direct method. Now students, let's understand something about techniques. So techniques, the teacher asks questions of any nature and the students answer. So dictation, the teacher chooses a grade appropriate passage and reads the text. Aloud, teacher reads the passage 3 times. So this is the actually technique how the teacher is teaching the students through direct method. So first of all, teacher asks questions in any nature, any form, and the student is answering. So the teacher is choosing a grade appropriate passage, either it is of 10th standard or 6th standard. You must take care for which standard you are choosing a paragraph. And then teacher reads the text aloud. Teacher reads the passage 3 times. So see, you can see in my presentation that teacher is asking, I hope you are ready for your English dictation test. Open your dictation books, write today's date on the top right corner of your page, and the students are following the same. So this is something that a teacher is required to do in the English classroom. So only then the teacher is directing them in English language, the students are learning, students are understanding, and gradually they will be becoming more comfortable in English language because they have started listening in small sentences, small parts about the English language. Then reading aloud. Students take turn reading sections of a passage, play or dialogue out loud. So you must remember your own school days when your teacher used to tell you to read some prose chapters or recite poetry. So this was purposely done, students. Now being a prospective teacher, you can understand why your teacher used to do that. So, reading aloud by the student actually gives a chance to the student to train his mind, train his speech in target language. So, that was done purposely. So, reading aloud is must for a teacher to do that. Now, technique next is map drawing. So, map drawing students are given a map without label, then the students label it by using the directions the teacher gives it. So everything, the diagrams are being drawn by the students that has to be labeled. And if they are drawing any map, then it has to be labeled properly, physically, geographically, whatever is the purpose, the teacher must clear that. Then paragraph writing, these are all the techniques in which the teacher is actually motivating the students to learn English well. So the paragraph writing, the students are asked to write a passage in their own words. This is very old technique, student, when the passage was asked to write by a student. And in that passage, the teacher used to assess many of the qualities of a particular student, or maybe psychological testing is also related to that. But whatever the topic you have given, it actually also enables the students to think in an English language only, and as well thinking creatively is also emphasized. Now let's see what are the advantages of direct method. So one of its positive point is that it promises to teach the language, not about the language. What are the rules? How does it work in the classroom? How an essay is written, it doesn't talk about it. But is the essay written in direct language, or you are speaking about the idea? That is more important. So, language learning is learning about skills, is acquiring mastery over the language skills, which are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So, that's why it is told that it is actually teaching about the language, not about the language. So, it is teaching the language. So, definitely, if a student is well versed in target language, then you can make out his performance by his speaking only. This direct method is actually emphasizing on this point. Then students, nextly it is a natural method which teaches languages in the same way the mother tongue is acquired. Only the target language is used and learning is contextualized. So this is natural method which teaches language in the same way the mother tongue is acquired. So this is something that students, whatever you are speaking in the classroom, you are not supposed to use the mother tongue. And only target language is used because whatever you are teaching to your students, you are actually giving them context for their better learning. So it emphasizes on speech, made it more attractive for those who have need of real communication in the target language. So it is one of the first methods to introduce the teaching of vocabulary through realists. So understand, students, that advantages are definitely related to increasing the competency level of language skills, communication skills, reducing the use of mother tongue and increasing the use of target language only while communicating. All right. Now let's have look some onto some criticism. In spite of its achievement, the direct method fell short from fulfilling the needs of educational system. So it is fine. The teacher is working so hard to teach the students about the direct language. The teacher is teaching prose, poetry, grammar, composition with direct method. But there are some demerits of this method, or we can call that some critics have given some points that what about those things. So one of its major shortcomings is that it was hard for public schools to integrate it. All the children are not having the same IQ, so it becomes little difficult for those students who are not from English medium background. So they face it so difficult with difficulty that they are not able to adjust with that. And then all the students are not having that courage and that level of interest that in spite of challenges that are being produced in the form of direct method in front of them, that they are actually facing and they are surviving with it. So all the students are not of same nature, but some of the students just skip to learn the English language. They escape from it because they do not understand, or they must have not trained their ears into this language. So, as R. Brown in 1994 1956 points out, the direct method did not take well in the public schools where constraints of budget, classroom size, limit, and teacher background, native speakers, or native like fluency made such a method difficult to use. So it was really hard by that time. So after a short popularity in the beginning of the 20th century, it soon began to lose its appeal because of these constraints. So if then paved the way to the audiolingual method. So this is something that students we have discussed. So direct language is really related to beautiful examples that we have given. That direct method is very helpful in making the child understandable what the child has learned. So when we are giving the child more and more opportunity in the classroom, so the child is learning more effectively. And direct method actually stops you to use about the help of mother tongue or your regional language, and it is strictly prohibited in that. So that's why students, it is important for all of us to understand that being English teacher, you have to remember that students are learning well and students are actually doing well when they are learning in through direct method to learn the English language. So, apart from the criticism, we have seen its benefits. And after studying the benefits, we can only just quote that direct method is not like a method which we can ignore if we want to make our students enable about that thing. Okay, student. So this is about direct method of teaching. It is giving you the opportunities to teach your students in the same language, in English language only, and it is talking about that. Now the question arises there: how you should teach your students with direct method? Now, I will be taking example one by one for all the four devices. Like first is prose, poetry, grammar, composition. So how we are going to do that? So firstly, when I'm talking about prose, so prose is such a device where you are having lots of essays, chapters, stories, in them in your course reader book or any prose book. So when a teacher is giving a model reading to the students are learning the pronunciations, and students actually becoming familiar with the uh, special features of what the listening skill is there. So by listening, when the teacher is doing the model reading, the students are actually becoming familiar with the concept and idea of the particular chapter. And then we follow the next step, that is done by imitative reading. So even in imitative reading, the students are supposed to do the reading as it is done by the teacher. So this is how the target language is actually learnt in all the four skills. And now if the students are not pronouncing their words properly, so the teacher is doing some exercises that is called detailed exposition in lesson plan formatting, and the student detailed exposition is given by this teacher to the students to learn the pronunciation in a very well form. So this is how the prose is learned. Now remember students that when a teacher is teaching prose, teacher is actually giving the opportunities to the students to understand everything, every concept of English language in English language only, not by including any other language. Just for the example, understand it like this: if the students are not understanding a particular word, then for the sake of their fast learning, the teacher is not going to give the meaning in their regional language or any mother tongue or any other sort of. The teacher is supposed to explain the meaning of the word in that target language only. And how can it be possible? It is possible only with the help of some actions, devices, or some like drawing something on the board, or just speaking that word in simple sentence or simple words that students can understand, or any other synonym which is very popularly known by the students. So this is the way indirect method prose is taught. Now I'm talking about next device, that is poetry. So poetry is also taught in the through direct method students, and how it is done. Again, the model recitation is given by the teacher, and imitative recitation is given by the teacher. So the steps are followed in the same way, and there is no scope of using any other language when we are teaching poetry or prose to the students. So this is the way how we are using direct language in English language. All right, students. Now coming to the grammar part also. In grammar, we teach through inductive and deductive method. When we are giving the presentation of any teaching point, then the students are actually answering that. And we are expecting those answers in English language only. So then presentation, then we make the generalization, that is also in target language only, and then we do the practice in target language. So it's a very good sequence, very good order that the students are learning in that way. And same as in composition part, we do learn so many things to write there: letter, applications, stories, essays, notice, report writing, so many article things we are going to learn in that. So this is all about direct method, students. There are some more references that you can go through, and you can learn more about direct method from your own understanding. Now let's have a look on some MCQs, students. That are very important and taken from general English, not especially from direct method only. So just understand how it is working. Now question 1 is related to teaching and learning is a journey from concrete to abstract, simple to complex, known to unknown. So the answer is all the above. Nextly, the method of teaching English adopted at present in school curriculum is formative correlation, approach, functional communicative approach, function corrective approach, figurative comprehensive approach, and then teaching and learning is a journey from. So the correct answer of second question is functional communicative approach. Now third is teaching and learning is a journey from. It's concrete to abstract, simple to complex, known to unknown. All the above answers are correct. So the method of teaching English adopted at present in school curriculum is formative. It is the functional communicative approach. So the objective of direct method is to increase power of comprehension, to increase communicative power, to develop a command over the target language, to develop personality. So the correct answer is to develop a command over the target language. It means to learn that language fullest. One of the principles of materials preparation for language learning is that complex materials should be chosen, grading of materials should be done, any kind of materials can be chosen, a small amount of material should be introduced. So the correct answer is grading of materials should be done. Now nextly, correct pronunciation of individual sound is related to accuracy, fluency, both accuracy and fluency, neither accuracy nor fluency. So we are here talking about correct pronunciation. How much time you take in that doesn't matter. Suppose you are speaking a word, examination. Now, the speed of this word speaking, I speak it, examination. So this is accurate. But if I'm taking time, doesn't matter. But correct pronunciation is important. So fluency is just taking in that way, examination. So even this is fine. So language acquisition occurs only when the child has exposure to the language. When a child is asked to recite a problem, it can help the teacher to test comprehension. Teacher is not helping for the knowledge of literature, for the proficiency of speaking, acting talent, comprehension. So this is something that a teacher is required to do. So now the 10th question is related to the structure. He goes to school is often produced by learners due to failure of intelligence, mother tongue interference, or overgeneralization of rules or wrong teaching. Now, students, he goes to school is often produced by learners due to overgeneralization of rules. Whatever the rules the child has learned, he is all the time overgeneralizing it, which is also not good. So just understand, students, when we are learning about the direct method of teaching, so direct method of teaching is actually enabling you how well you are actually training your students, how well you are training your students to learn well in English language. So this is how we are working. Now students, this is very important for all of you to know about what is the language and what is the direct method of teaching. So language is actually teaching you language skills, and direct method is actually teaching you something directly to use that language. Now, we are not using, to summarize that, we are not using any other language to teach the English language. So this is something that we have to understand. Now, this is very important method, students, and we have to learn it in a very firm way about the things. in such a way that students are understanding. All right. So direct language is written or spoken language that communicates meaning as clearly, concisely, and candidly as possible for you all. So this can be contrasted with indirect language students that sacrifices clarity to make language more colorful, more polite, entertaining, or intentionally difficult to understand in order to avoid criticism. So to understand the examples of direct language, it is very important that you are understanding. So whenever you are understanding English language, you are supposed to understand what is directly said. Okay. So when there is something which is directly said, you people are understanding that in target language only, and you are not losing its it's actually gist. What should I say? So just understand that when you are teaching in your classroom, so it is very important for an English teacher. So establish a good relationship among your students so that they can learn the direct method of teaching English, which is sometimes called the natural method also. And students, just to revise the nutshell thing, I would like to tell you all that direct method of teaching is actually used to teach the foreign languages. And here we are talking about English language. And it is refraining the learners to use the native language, or he or she is actually motivated to learn the focused or target language only. So it was established in England around 1900 and contrast with the grammar translation method which I have told you, GTM, and other traditional approaches, as well as with whatever the bilingual method has given by C.J. Dodson. So it was adopted by key international language schools, such as many popularly known schools. So in general, teaching is focused on the development of oral skills in English language. And there are some characteristics features which I have discussed with you all, that teaching concepts and vocabulary through pantomimizing or real life objects or over other visual materials. So teaching grammar by using inductive approach, having learners find out rules first through the presentation of adequate linguistic forms in the target language. So this is actually like centrality of spoken language. What I am speaking, you are learning that only. And it is also like we are understanding each other's conversation, as well as we are understanding how well we are with that particular language, which is not native, which is not regional. So, direct method in teaching is a language that is establishing an immediate and audio-visual association between experience and expression, words and phrases, idioms and its meanings, rules and performances through the teacher's body and mental skills students. And without any help of learners' mother tongue, we are strictly prohibited to use the mother tongue. So just understand that in other words also, that direct method of teaching language aims to build a direct way, just a clear way into the world of the target language, which is making a very beautiful relation between the experience of language, words and ideas. If teacher is giving you the words, you are forming it into the form of ideas, thoughts and expressions, rules and performances. So it is just making a direct relationship between that. So this method intends for students to learn how to communicate in the target language. This method is based on the assumption, just to revise that the learner should experience the new language in the same way as he or she experienced his or mother tongue without considering the existence of mother tongue. So this was all about direct method in today's class, and I hope students you have learned well about direct method, what it is, its assumptions, theoretical assumptions, its basic principles, and how it works. So this is all about we have discussed today and how it is working. So I hope you have understood very well, students, and I'm really sure that as an English teacher, you would be appreciating the direct method in your teaching, and you will be enabling your students to be well versed in all the language skills, which are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So direct method is a wonderful method which is actually teaching the target language without the help of mother tongue or native tongue. So I hope you have learned well. So just take care of yourself, stay safe and healthy. Thank you, students.